Is this the best AI model yet? Today, we're going to be talking about Anthropic's Claude 3, which just came out this past week. We're going to be analyzing the three models in the family and how it compares to GPT-4 and other models based off of various different benchmarks.
Yes, but before we jump into that, let's talk a little about Anthropic and who they are. So first of all, Anthropic was founded just 3 years ago by former OpenAI employees. They've raised up to $7.3 billion from big investors like Google, Salesforce, Zoom, Amazon, and Microsoft. Their current evaluation is up to $18 billion. And this year alone, they've released 3 different models: Claude 1, Claude 2, and the model that we're going to talk about today, Claude 3, which was announced just this past week on March 4th.
Like I said, Anthropic released 3 models with their Claude 3. So they have the Haiku model, the Sonnet model, and the Opus model, which is said to be their magnum opus. So the Opus model is their most intelligent model. It's also their most expensive, but the potential uses could be task automation to plan and execute complex actions across APIs and databases, R&D, so this is like research and even drug discovery, and then strategy for either businesses or other areas. Sonnet is the in-between, middle-of-the-ground model, so it's slightly cheaper, but it's still used for data processing, sales, or other time-saving tasks. So it's different because it's more affordable, but it still has similar intelligence to the Opus model. And then we have the Haiku model, which is by far the cheapest. It's not currently out just yet. They're going to roll it out very soon. But because it's smart and fast, it's very affordable to be used as the API in other people's businesses. So this is for customer interactions, content moderation, and other cost-saving tasks.
The biggest news that's come from this week's Claude 3 announcement is the fact that it's beating GPT-4 in several different models in these important benchmarks. A couple important benchmarks that we're going to cover today is the MMLU, which is a basic test that tests these models on 57 different subjects. It barely beat out GPT-4, but at the end of the day, the fact that it's beating out GPT-4 is a huge milestone. The other benchmark that we're going to talk about is code. They call it the human eval benchmark, and this has absolutely blown out the market. And it's one of the best scores. It's 84.9% compared to GBT's 67%, which is very, very impressive. And finally, my favorite benchmark, we're going to talk about the HelloSwag benchmark, which actually stands for harder endings, longer contexts, and low shot activities for situations with adversarial generations. It's a fantastic name for a benchmark, but what's important is that it covers common knowledge. And in this sense, it barely beat out GPT-4, but it's very important that it's up to GPT-4's standard, and it's a huge milestone for Anthropic.
I know you guys all relate to this. When using GPT-4, sometimes you'll ask a question and it will take like 5 minutes to spit out the answer. One thing that stands out with Claude 3 is that it's fast. You type in a prompt, you're going to get an answer within seconds.
Claude 3 is also really good at analyzing visual data. So when looking at charts or graphs or any picture, it can really take out what's in it and spit out the information that you need from it. Another improvement of Claude 3 has been the refusal rate. In past models, the incorrect refusal rate has been relatively high. It's been right about 25%, and it's been lowered all the way down to just over 10%. Now, this is important because when there's an incorrect refusal rate, it means that it doesn't necessarily know what's safe and what isn't. Anthropic is a company that values safety as its number one priority, and for it to be able to improve in this significant of a way, it means that these models are getting safer and safer.
Another key benefit is its long context window. So all of the models have 200,000 tokens available for the prompts. This means that you could literally put a book into the prompt if you wanted to. This is actually what's used for the needle in the haystack benchmark testing, in that you put a novel in and then you put a single line in that's not originally in the actual novel. And the idea is that the model is supposed to identify this needle in the haystack. It's supposed to be able to identify which sentence is wrong. Past models, Claude 2 included, haven't been able to identify this needle in the haystack. Claude 3 has actually been found not only to identify the needle in the haystack, but to remark that the needle in the haystack was put in there to fool it. It refers to it in the first person, which is, a little scary. It looks a lot like AGI. Hopefully we're not there yet, but we'll have to just see.
Now, all of this is impressive about Claude 3, and it is incredible that they're here. But something to note is that GPT-4 was made about a year ago. The fact that we're this excited that Claude 3 is now finally reaching GPT-4 is just a note to see how impressive OpenAI has been. It also raises a question of how good their next model is going to be.
Yeah, and speaking of OpenAI, we actually just made a video talking about the rise of OpenAI and ChatGPT. So we talk about GPT-5 coming soon, Sora, other models that they've developed, as well as their history. So if you're curious about that, we'd love if you guys would watch that video. It should be here for you to click on. And don't worry, we don't mind if you leave this video now because we're actually wrapping up. So
yeah, actually, Conall, I got one more question for you.
What is that question?
What's once is plus once is?
Deuces.